All right, let's get started. Am I audible? Right, so this is going to be an interesting panel discussion, of course. Thank you for coming. So at WSO2, with AI, we are trying to solve two problems, right? So the first one is with the products. So that is about what we can do for our customers with AI, right? So we've gone and done a lot of work there. So this is where all of these code for AI and AI for code things come in, right? Then we have stuff like what we are doing internally. What are we doing for ourselves? So this panel discussion is about that. So actually, Asanka talked about internal transformation, right? So this is related to, along those lines, we want to see what these internal teams are doing, how we are innovating, and so on. So I think in each function, so you are representing different functions, right? So we have tools which we have built ourselves, like using agents, like various models. And there are tools that we actually use directly. So, for example, GitHub Copilot and so on, right? So we want to, dig into these tools, in detail and look at, what they do, and then also look at, what are the challenges that you face when you try to take into production, and also look at, how it is impacting. Finally, like your future plans. So let me start with Ruwan. So the first round, we will just do a very quick, summary of overview of what you guys have been working on each function, and then we will look at specific or one or two use cases, and then we will look at, why is it hard and why it takes time to build these things, and then how it's paying off, and then the challenges. So Ruwan, over to you.
Yeah, for customer success, I think these AI tools and whatever the agents that we want to build is basically a classic problem, right? Because you have a lot of stuff that you need to respond quickly. You need to improve the efficiency. We are trying to see how we can improve the efficiency always, and improve the productivity, and make sure we improve the quality of these deliverables as well, right? So in many ways, including from the language that we use, the way that we communicate with the customers, and the technical content and all that, right? So it's very important for us to do these improvements with the current evolution of AI. So we have most of these use cases built around that. The first one that we have is this customer, when the customer creates a case, we basically generate a first response into that. So if we can add more content into that and see whether we can do the resolution of that particular issue, then and there, we call in the customer success, we call it FCR, or first contact resolution. The moment that you contact the support or the CS team, you resolve that, right? So if an AI agent can resolve that, that's much better. So that's what we try to do with first response generation. And then another use case where we try to see whether, so the first one is mostly external, that is, it goes out to the customers. Of course, the internal team members also get some insights from it, but it's mostly trying to address the external problem. There is another internal use case where we try to, summarize the cases, because, most of you guys have involved or at least, worked on something related to support as well, right? So sometimes these cases can be messy, because we have like, 20 odd comments or maybe even 50 odd comments on a case. So what we try to do is, when we bring in more expertise into that particular case in order to try and resolve it at an escalation point or something, the person who comes in with that expertise needs to get a full understanding of what the history of that issue is, right? The context of that issue. And you have to read like 20 odd comments. But here what we try to do is, in this second use case, where we try to summarize all that and then give a brief context of what that is. So those are the two main use cases that we use AI for.
And both of these are in production?
They are both in production. And there are a few others in production as well.
Yeah. And then you use this specific name, Novera.
Yeah. So we brand it all under the brand name Novera. Sanjeev always used to, get talk fun out of it. By the way, there's an interesting story behind that too. Novera also is a name that we found with AI. That is, I was explaining this problem to OpenAI, basically ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT helped me and basically resolve or revolve into this particular name, Novera.
Right, right. Amila, over to you.
Yeah, so I'll explain at high level a couple of things we have using in production now. So obviously, yes, now for the developers, we have been pushing them to use Copilot about like 2 years back, and then there's this Claude and Cursor and everything. Now they are using those, but these are some things like we have developed to make our things better. First one is like in last year during the Barcelona conference, we got some feedback from the customers saying our products, they don't have enough logs to troubleshoot. When something happens, the logs are not enough, and then we have to give some patches with added logs to troubleshoot the issue. And Sanjeev was the next day Sanjeev was telling me we have to fix that, and we should use AI to fix that. Sanjeev is not here, I think.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So then, like, we could simply do it in one go, but it has to be a sustainable thing, because, like, if we fix the code we have today, but we are writing code in the future as well, we have to address that as well. So we had to come up with a solution where we implemented a service in Ballerina, and then every PR, we have a GitHub action, and then we talk to that service, and we use Claude APIs to suggest what are the improvements we can make in terms of logs we can put, and then we use the GitHub APIs and add them as suggestions. So earlier we had challenges where people were not like neglecting those, but then we made some changes to enforce whether they have to accept or reject. This was the first one we did. And then there was another practical problem. Like now, we all know we don't have a lot of technical writers in the company. All the documentation is done by the developers themselves. And then we have backlogs of documentation issues we have to fix, and sales engineering and customer success teams are complaining about issues not being closed. I was actually one day fixing one issue with Claude code, and it was pretty easy for me even without knowing things. And then I worked with another engineer, and then we implemented this way of labeling issues in our documentation repos, where we add a certain label, and after some time there's a GitHub action again picks it up, and then it does the fix in the GitHub repo, and it actually checks it for the accuracy, and also then send the PR. And the interesting thing is there are multiple branches because there are different versions in our documentation. So there's sort of repetitive work as well. So if you fix a documentation issue properly, it takes about 30 minutes. Even with Claude's help, it took about 25 minutes for me to fix and send PRs to each branch of that documentation repo. But with after we automate it, within 5 minutes, the agent can fix those issues. So those are the two things, and then we also tried to do some bug fixing as well in the same way. There were some challenges, we haven't gone a lot far with that. So those are the things we have done.
Yeah, so if I'm to summarize, so you have two agents, they can be anything, agents, Rago, whatever. One is the log, one that does the log improvement, and the other one is the doc issue fixing.
Yeah. One is an agent we wrote, and the other one is we are using the agent, which is the GitHub's integration with Claude Code. Right. It has this Claude Code application. We have installed it, and then it's a matter of using the GitHub actions to basically use that Claude agent.
Right. Vidura, over to you.
Yeah. So in sales engineering, we basically use AI for a few things. There is a lot of help we get from AI in the pre-sale stage. Most of you might know we get most of our sales through an inbound process where somebody comes to our website, they submit a contact us form with the details of what they want to do with our product. So one place where we basically used AI is the account managers as well as the sales engineers who attend those calls, the first couple of calls with the customer, are supposed to do sort of a background research about the company and who the person is and things like that before we actually go to the call. One of the first things that we did with AI, it was actually one of Mifan's ideas when he was heading the team, basically to use AI to do all of that for us automatically. And we actually started doing that by actually dividing that into a couple of stages. We have stage 1 or phase 1 already in production right now. In stage 1 or phase 1, what we did was we used AI to go and get some information from the whatever that is available on the internet. And then we used AI to sort of get it summarized and extract what is relevant as per the context that was in the contact us form. So that saves us as well as the sales team a lot of time to do that background research. And it also ensures that we touch upon multiple areas that we want to sort of look at. It's not just about the company, it's not just about the person, but also things like what sort of systems, or has that company been in the news recently with some technology partnerships, who are the other technology vendors they work with, are there any competitors that they have in their domain. All of these things help us to sort of go and build that relationship with them from the first call itself. So that's one key area that we are using AI for today. And then, of course, when we go into the sales process, as part of the pre-sales process, we have to build a lot of demos and POCs and things like that. So just like in engineering, we use code generation a lot there. Wherever possible to generate the code. And one key thing that we have to do most of the time with a POC is that we have to prove that our thing will work with the customer system. So more often than not, we get the payloads from their systems and try to mock those systems when we build the demo. And we use a lot of code generation, either using GitHub Copilot or Claude or anything that we can use to get that part done for us. So that's another use case. And then there's a third use case for us. So most of the government entities as well as large corporates, when they go for a software vendor, they go through a tender process. That's a standard way to make sure the vendor selection process is fair. So we get what are called RFPs or RFIs, request for proposal. These are usually large documents with multiple maybe hundreds of questions about different areas, some technical, some non-technical, some related to security and things like that. So it's a cumbersome task to most of the time fill these things. We have in the past used many tools to do this, automate this process of filling this, and this is usually a team effort, not just sales engineering or sales. Different people from security to R&D to HR to legal do all of this or help with this process of filling everything. So one thing that we are doing right now is we have built an AI-based tool that goes and populates all these answers for us automatically. And what we do there is we have our own knowledge library of question and answers that we have collected from the previous RFPs that we've done in the past, and we use that as a knowledge library to get this done. Right. So those are the three primary use cases that I can talk about.
And also this RFP tool is also, it's running in production.
Yes, absolutely. Both the RFP tool as well as the Geronimo project, which is the project that I talked about earlier, about the contact us forms being used. Both of them are in production right now. Right. Yeah.
Ayoma, over to you. What's happening on the security side?
Sure. So from security perspective, like being the central security team, we have a lot of areas to look at, right? It's not just about products, but then again, infrastructure, compliance, how the clouds operate, all that. So it's very important for us to make sure that we automate as much as possible. Right? I don't want to go much into code generation example because like we all talked about it, right? But then again, I want to quickly mention about the outcomes of this, right? So right now there are around 20 different automations that are running in order to make sure that our infrastructure, our products remain safe, and we get alerted whenever there are anomalies. For example, looking at status of our laptops, looking at our domain infrastructure, DNS records, how anomalies are happening, how changes are happening, whether there are any problematic cases there. And then how the security scores of different clouds are changing, and what do we have to pay attention to. So all that requires different automations. And throughout past, I have been talking about how to build centralized monitoring or centralized visibility into these all different aspects, right? So with AI, we could build all those 20 tools, 20 different automations and different dashboards that bring centralized visibility into play within a very short time. But then again, I don't want to go into coding agent, it's a common case. But we use coding agent in another use case as well, where we use it for security testing, right? So when it comes to manual security testing, where we go and look at certain features, see whether there are any vulnerabilities or any possibilities of exploitation, we usually look at product in play, right? You run through certain scenarios, you look at certain parameters, you try to inject certain things, and then being the internal security team, we have the ability to go through the code as well, being open source too. So we look at the code. But then again, when it comes to some of our products, code base is huge, right? It's not practically possible for us to go through all the data flows, to identify how things can go wrong. So now what we do is we bring coding agents to review, right? And basically identify where things can go wrong. So if we are testing certain vulnerability, we would use coding agent to discuss about the code, discuss where we should pay more attention to, and identify areas that we have to be more careful about. So that's an interesting use case that we have seen good success, and then we are building on top of it as well. And the third use case is basically how our security operations center team is using AI basically to safeguard our cloud offerings, right? So when it comes to offerings like Choreo, it's possible for people to come and adapt it for good purposes, but then again, we have seen it's being adapted for different malicious purposes as well. For example, to host some spam site, right? And host some phishing site, impersonating a bank or something like that. But if we let this to continue, what happens is our domain rating get bad, we can get flagged, and then all Choreo applications might get blocked from certain types of firewalls. So we have to pay close attention to into any of these alerts, any of these flags, and take proactive actions before someone come and report to us through any abuse channels. So what we are doing now is basically running through all the web applications deployed in Choreo, fetching certain interesting information that we can obtain in order to identify whether it's malicious or not, and giving that to AI so that AI can evaluate and give us a risk score for each of the applications that are hosted. And then it flags certain applications that we have to go and manually verify, see whether it's actually malicious, and if so, we do take down process and sometimes disable the account as well. So these are three primary cases I have.
That's great. So one important fact about this AI, when you talk about AI, is, this thing comes up saying taking your AI app to production is very challenging, I think. We have seen this one internally and also with the QSPs that we've been working on, right? Yes, it is true for other types of apps as well, but for AI, I think because there's this probabilistic nature, so it makes it more hard. So, Ruwan, I know you put a lot of effort when you built this Novera.
Yeah.
You didn't want to release it to customers, right?
Yeah.
So what were the challenges, that you faced? I mean, why it took quite a bit of time, I think, right, to take it to production.
So one of the things that we all need to understand is, this is about the responses that we generate to the customer, right? We all know that, there is hallucination in response generation when you, work with the generative AI model. So if for some reason, if our customers has lost the trust on these responses that we generate, I think it's the end of story, right? Because they will not use it anymore. They will not trust that response anymore. So we wanted to get some level of accuracy before we release it out. I mean, it's not perfect. Even today, it's not perfect. But we wanted to get to some level of accuracy so that customers can keep on building that trust on top of this, right? So that was hard, to be very frank, because of course, there are some amount of technical content that is in almost all these responses, but stopping hallucination was tough. Yes, of course, we were using a lot of prompting advancements to try and reduce that, but it was very tough, right? And the accuracy, getting that accurate response was tough. And another challenge that we have had in trying to get this released is the actual amount of information that is there in the request that is coming in from the customer. Because at times when customers explain the problem, you cannot really answer the problem with the information that is there in the first request that comes through, right? So it requires another set of questions going back to the customer so that they can give more information for us to understand the problem in detail and resolve it, right? So this requires conversational style of engagement rather than a single one-off response generation. But the current model that we do is we basically generate a first response, right? So that has been a challenge. That is still a challenge for us. But accuracy was the first challenge that we have had. Now I guess we are all public now for like good 6 months. There are some customers who has disabled that because of regulatory requirements, etc., as well. That also is a challenge. The way that I see that is you have to win the trust, and if this particular thing is valuable to the customer, then they will, try and find ways to try and enable this, even with having these regulatory challenges, etc., right? So we want to make it more useful and usable. So those are the challenges that we have been having.
Thanks. Yeah. So for the interest of time, let's try to do it a bit quickly. So Amila, can you try to summarize what challenges you have?
Yeah, I had a very similar challenge. Now, this was with the log improving agent. Now, we were going to roll this out to the developers, right? Because this was going to review the PRs sent by the developers and going to suggest log improvements. And we first enabled this to a couple of repos, and we were checking like the suggestions which were generated, and like they were not good. I mean, there were a lot of challenges, like it was generating these logs for the getters and setters, and those are not needed, and all those things, and some were, and then so we had to give a lot of context to this agent in that. So we had a very lengthy prompt to make it restrictive, and it was going to do code changes which we didn't want it to do. So we had to there were a lot of challenges with the accuracy, and but we slowly rolled it out to about 40 plus repos, but still the accuracy, honestly the accuracy is not that great. It's about like the suggestions, out of the suggestions it makes like about only 15% are accepted. So others are like rejected, or like there are some comments still waiting to be resolved, I think. And we started this in April, and we rolled this out in July, and over the time, like things like CodeRabbit and GitHub Copilot is also, now those days there was no way for us to, now Copilot and CodeRabbit were also reviewing the PRs, but we didn't have a way to tell them you need to review these aspects as well. For example, the performance or the logs for the debugging purposes and things like that. But later they rolled out capabilities to give some context. Saying, okay, you have to think of these aspects and all those. Now, since they were working on those things, I thought, okay, I'll wait for a bit and wait for them to come, and then maybe we can discard this and, start using those. So that was the main challenge, because like otherwise, now I know some of you guys in the audience might be thinking, okay, some of those suggestions are crap. I have seen, sometimes I had to ping them personally and ask, okay, why didn't you resolve these suggestions and all those? Because for us to make this like, working, they have to accept or reject these things. Yeah. And we had to build a dashboard ourselves to check this accuracy, because there was no way for us to see whether these suggestions make sense. So Charit was the engineer working with me, and we had to build send data to BigQuery and build a dashboard by ourselves to measure the accuracy. But the other one, the doc issue fixing, is pretty good. We have solved 90 doc issues so far across IAM, APIM, and MI repos, and there are other repos we are going to roll it out. That's pretty good. The other one, we had challenges.
Okay.
With the stuff that we did, we had two types of challenges. Some of them were technical, and they are very similar to what Ruwan and Amila mentioned with accuracy. I'll talk a little bit about that. But the other challenge we had was non-technical. When we started actually looking at what we wanted to do, we had to first think of whether is it right to do this in the first place, because we are going and researching about people on the net, and then using that information. Is that even possible? Is it permissible? Is it correct ethically? But that was because it was the first time we've done something like that here. And then once we got over that stage, it was more about the technical challenges we had. Obviously, the standard challenges with using AI, LLMs and all of that are there, where the accuracy comes into play. I spoke about, especially with Geronimo, the phase 1 being out, and there is a phase 2 that is still not released out because of that accuracy issue. In phase 2, what we've done in a very simple terms is basically we are now looking at all the documents that we have from the previous customer engagements that we have worked with, and whenever we get the contact us forms, we are also looking at what other engagements or other customers who we have worked with previously sort of matched to this requirement, and then try to give insights and things like that to the sales engineers from what we have already. There, the issue is the AI can go and pick the content based on the context and things like that, but it's very hard for us to say that, okay, this is exactly what we want for this, right? So there has to be some sort of human testing, or somebody has to look at what the AI gives you and says, is this the best possible outcome for this request, right? And the challenge for us in phase 2 has been really figuring out that bit, where how do we increase this accuracy? It does give us something, but is this the best outcome? Because if I look at the outcome today, I can't say these are the documents that should be there, right? So it is something that we are still doing iterations on, and with every iteration we are trying to optimize it, and I'm sure we'll get there. One other thing about the other project, where the RFP automation, I think again accuracy may have it is obviously an issue there as well, but it is less so there because the previous tools that we've used, automated tools, they all did the matching based on keywords, but with AI we were able to do a context matching. So because of that, it automatically gave us, at least in my opinion, a much more accurate results, right, than what the previous tools gave us. So although sometimes the accuracy may not be 100% or nearly of what we want to, it will give you something that you can work on compared to the previous ones. So because of that, I think the accuracy problem is a little less in that project for us.
Yeah, so I agree with that point, and then same thing is seen in security side as well. So we always have some human towards the end, right? So we do certain reviews, and then whatever the outcomes that AI generate is reviewed by a human in order to make the next step, like do the next step of testing. And then, so because of this, like human involvement that we have right now, we didn't come across this accuracy problem that much, right? We always have some verification at the end. But then again, when it comes to future plans around, let's say, advisory reviews and, let's say, security report related feedback reviews that we are going to work on, I'm sure we are going to come across all these problems related to accuracy and how to fine-tune models in order to generate as accurate information as possible. But then again, like one challenge that I saw with these automations specifically is how technology is quickly evolving, right? So when we started all these automations, we didn't even have tool calls, I think. So it was very primary, and we started it at very primary stage. So everything that we had to provide to LLM, we had to do on our side. For example, taking screenshots of different sites in Choreo, extracting source code, all that we had to do and then provide to LLM. Now that's not required anymore, right? You have tool calls. And then you have now agents that can talk to each other. So whenever these new iterations come in, we also have to quickly adapt. Thinking in WSO2's mindset, we always think about how we can do this better, how we can do this in a better and efficient way, right? So we also have to continuously improve our tooling in order to match with what is going on in the industry. That's a challenge, but then again, that's a good aspect of it as well.
So yeah, so it seems like by talking to four of you, so the most of the challenges, I mean, of course, there are other challenges, right, when it comes to governance, the cost, but most of the challenges are still in the early part of the development life cycle. I guess the other challenges will come later down the track, right? So we've been developing this agent management platform, which you may have, of course, we presented that, right? So what the agent management platform lets you do is, it's the full management of the life cycle of these agents, right? So from the building to then observing and evaluating, you should be able to keep track of the accuracy, yeah, right? And then your team has already a data set. And RFP also, there is a data set, right? So you can use those pre-built functions within the agent management to, help with some of these challenges. Right, so for the interest of time, I want to wrap up. Would you like to summarize what your future plan would be? What is going to be the next thing that would be coming up?
Yeah, from this use case perspective, mainly from support first response generation point of view, we are working towards this conversational model because that will improve the amount of issues that we can resolve. Just to give some numbers on the current this thing, we target to basically try and reach 30% of queries, but right now we're at 6% of the generated responses are resolved by customers with that particular response without any customer success agents. We call them agents as well. It's an overloaded word now. Customer success engineers, right? Without any involvement of those guys, right? So 6% of issues, which is a very small number to be frank right now, but we want to hit 30%, right? We believe with the conversational model, we should be able to build 30%. So the new customer portal basically will have the experience will start with a chat. Basically, the customer will chat with the agent, and that is an AI agent, first of all, and try and get his problem resolved. If he cannot resolve that problem, we will basically go give the button for the customer to click on that button and get the same context from the chat history and immediately create a case out of that, right? Predicting some of the other parameters as well. So then the CS engineer gets involved with that and then resolves it, sort of, right? So this percentage, we want to achieve 30% this year. That's our future in terms of this particular use case.
I see, that's interesting. So the actual issue gets created after customer
interacting with the, so it comes through that particular phase first.
I see. Okay, great. Amila?
Yeah. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we were trying to do some bug fixing as well, similar to how we fix the doc issues, and we were able to, I think, handle about 9 issues, but it was very tough because one reason is due to our repository structure. Our code is in very different places. It's not a mono repo, so we have to tell where the repo and all those things, and so we couldn't get that going that far. So I would like to revisit that, and then also one other pain point is we have is on this patching, where we fix a bug and we have to issue multiple patches to multiple versions. If we can, reduce some of the burden, maybe not everything, but if we can reduce some of the burden and hand over some of these mundane tasks to these agents, that would be good. So those are the 2 things I would like to explore in the future.
Okay. great. Vidura.
Yeah, so for us, there's a couple of things that we want to do. We have identified other use cases that we want to use AI. We feel that we can use, the assistance of AI to do things like generating proposals and content for the proposals, do some capacity planning for us and things like that. So we are in the process of sort of identifying those use cases and kind of testing some of those things out. We have a bunch of interns that work with us on these aspects always. And then we are also trying to optimize what we already have. In two ways, obviously the accuracy part that I spoke about earlier, and some of the earlier versions of what we wrote were not written using the WSO2 tech because it wasn't production ready at that point. We have been converting some of that into WSO2 tech, and that conversion process has also sort of allowed us to learn a lot more about our own thing, as well as being able to generate that much faster than what we did before. So we are in the process of doing that for Geronimo. The rest of it that we've done has been completely built using the WSO2 tech, and we continue to sort of optimize those as well, just as the others.
Okay. Great.
So when it comes to security, customer messaging is really important, right? How we communicate security aspects to customers is a key thing. So whenever we have vulnerability, we have to communicate to them. But then again, we have to make sure we communicate enough information while not giving too much information as well. We can't cause panic, all that. So we have a lot of review process going on internally around security advisories and how we respond to security reports that customers are sending. So all these are right now manual process. So we want to use AI within Q1 this year, basically to automate most of these processes, at least do an initial pass through an AI so that review feedback is provided to engineering team so that they can polish it up before it's sent to security team. So it's going to reduce a lot of workload from us. And then another interesting use case is how we can use AI for security testing, right? So we use static code scanning through AI, that's already there. But then again, we want to see how we can do actual security testing in business use cases, etc., using AI. So there are certain tools that we already use which has AI capabilities. For example, when we do testing, it also underneath look at the requests going on, look at the patterns that are going on, and then if we miss something, it would tell us, okay, here's an interesting area, look at it further, or something like that. So we want to see how we can connect those type of things with other AI agents that we can write so that we can give some knowledge about our existing code bases to it so that it knows how to look at the source code for that particular area, find whether there's actually a security issue before coming to us, right? So there are other different areas from a dynamic perspective where we can do attack simulations and see whether there are any problems within products. So that's a primary area we are interested in.
Okay, so high level, I mean, we have achieved quite a lot internally, and we have seen great results, and it's making an impact. But of course, we have a lot more to do.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks guys for coming to this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.